Before we start this video, a large thank you to Sinquan, Kit, Krill, Rosenzo, and Yemed for their support on Patreon. I hope you guys enjoy the video. You guys are awesome. Hello guys, I've updated my version of Unity as you can see, so we got a nice darker background to look at. It's not so hurtful on the eyes. So I'm going to start off by dragging in the model of a chest. And in this episode, we're actually going to make it so we animate this chest, and we're going to make it so we can open it, and it will spawn an item, and our player can pick up the item inside the chest. I'm just going to mess around the model here because the scaling of it is kind of messed up. So I'm just going to crank it to 100 so it appears normally on screen. So I'm just going to drag it into the scene, and then I'm going to make it into a prefab. Okay. So for this, you're going to want a chest that has two pieces, the lid and the chest itself. You can find a bunch on the Unity Asset Store. You can make one yourself. But essentially, we're going to animate the lid to open, and we're going to use an animation where our player opens the chest. And then we're going to instantiate an object inside of it, and we're going to do all the polish and such too. So I'm just going to double click on this here and zoom in. And as you know, we have an interactable class we derive our item from. So basically, when we pick up an item, we're deriving it from this interactable script. And when our player is walking around the scene, we check for interactable objects. And based on that object, we will do some logic with the interaction. So I'm just going to put this material here on the chest so it's not so painful on the eyes. Okay, it looks good. Now, we're going to click on the chest again, and I'm going to add a component. And I'm going to call this Open Chest. Alright, let's say create and add. Now, if we go over to our interactable script, you will see that we have here, we draw a gizmo to show the radius of it. And we have a virtual void called interact where we pass the player manager, and defaultly it just says debug log, you have interacted. And if you go to our player manager here, here's where we check for our interactable. So we're just firing a raycast, and we're looking for any object in the scene that's tagged with interactable. And then we're going to look for the interactable script attached to it, and we're going to run that logic if we hit the A button. This is used for pickup item, and this is how we handle our items in previous videos. We're going to do something very similar with other branches of our interaction system. So this one being a chest, let's tag our chest with the tag interactable so we can interact with it. And let's open up the open chest script, and let's do some things in here. So first off, I'm going to open up with my namespace so I can derive this class from interactable, as is per tradition. I will erase the start and update method as we're not going to be needing them. And there we go, open chest, interactable, good. Next, I'm going to make a public override, and we're going to override the interact. And we're just going to erase the base interact. No need to fire debug log. Now let's make some pseudocode here to dictate our logic. So we're going to want to rotate our player towards the chest when we actually interact with this. And then we're going to want to lock his transform to a certain point in front of the chest. So I'll just say to a certain point in front of the chest. And then we're going to want to actually open the chest lid and simultaneously animate the player opening the chest lid. Then we're going to want to spawn the item inside the chest. And then the player can pick that up, of course. And that's basically everything. So this is all the logic we have to code. Let's start from the very top, and we'll get this out of the way first. Rotate our player towards the chest. So this is very simple. We've done this in many videos for different reasons. We're going to say vector3 rotation direction is equal to transform.position minus the player manager dot transform dot position. So that's the direction we want to rotate towards. Then we're going to say rotation direction dot y is equal to 0. We want no rotation of the y. Then we're going to say rotation direction dot normalize. Next we're going to say quaternion tr for target rotation is equal to quaternion dot look rotation, and we're going to look towards our rotation direction that we just made. And then we're going to say quaternion target rotation is equal to quaternion slurp between the player manager dot transform dot rotation and our TR, our new target rotation. Now I'm going to do this very fast. I'm going to say by a speed of say 300 times time dot delta time. Otherwise, because this is a slurp, we won't rotate fully. We'll run up like half rotating. But I like to use a slurp because it makes it look a lot smoother. So then we're going to say player manager dot transform dot rotation is equal to the target rotation. Good, and that is our rotation handled. So if I start the game now, first let's change the interactable text to open chest on the open chest. I'm going to add a mesh collider to this also. There should be one defaultly on most models, but this one didn't have one. Good, okay, now if I go in game, you approach the chest, you will see it says open chest, and if I hit the interact button, you see I snap towards it, I rotate towards it. Now, that's great. We also need to add it so we start playing animation. The chest animates, and we lock to a position in front of the chest. So, let's go up here and let's say public transform, and I'm not sure what to name this, but I'll just call it player standing position. You could call it player standing position in front of the chest, or chest standing position, just something that allows you to know it's where your player is going to stand. And then we're going to go to the chest, we're going to right click on it, and we're going to create an empty game object under it. And this is going to be where we stand. So I'm just going to call this, again, something that allows you to know this is where your player stands when opening a chest. So player standing position. I'll turn on my gizmos, and we're going to actually move this to a position where we want our player to stand. So right there looks like it should be perfect. And I'm going to drag that into the player standing position here on the script, and we're going to utilize that momentarily. Now, we could just say something like this. Player manager dot transform dot position is equal to player standing position dot transform dot position, and that works. However, we're going to implement a few things in the future with interactables like doors and levers and such. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to delete it from here, and we're actually going to go to our player manager, and down here where we have check for interactable object, I'm actually going to make a region. I'm going to call this player interactions. Now on my other project, I actually have a script called interaction manager. You can do that too, but it's also okay to keep it on the player manager because all we handle here is our update functionality. So using this to handle our interaction functionality would not be a bad idea. I'm going to make a public void open chest interaction, and you can see where I'm going with this. In the future we'll have open door interaction, pull lever interaction, etc., etc. And on this open chest interaction, I'm just going to need to pass a transform, and I'm just going to say player stands here when opening chest. So it's very clear what that is. And I'll paste that and erase the player manager. And then what we have is basically a position to insert our player when opening a chest. And we're just going to call that function on the open chest interactable script. And then we're going to say player animator manager dot play target animation open chest. Now I haven't dragged it in yet. I will later. Is interacting is true, so we can't move out of it. And then we are going to actually, right above all this, we're going to freeze our velocity on a rigid body so we don't move. And the reason we do this, and by the way, that's player locomotion dot rigid body dot velocity equals vector 3.0. The reason why we do this is because if you're running in and you interact and your velocity does not reset to 0, you'll have this ice skating effect where you'll begin sliding while doing this. This was seen on the pickup item video, I believe. So let's save that. Looks good. Okay, excellent. Now on the interact below that, we'll just say player manager dot open chest interaction, and we'll pass our player standing position transform. Cool. And that locks the transform now to the front of the chest. So now all we have to do is open the chest lid and animate the player, and then spawn the item inside the player, or inside the chest rather, so the player can pick it up. So let's call the animator variable here and call it animator. Let's erase this. And then we're going to say animator, whoops, not capital A. We're going to say animator dot play, and then we're going to say chest open. At least that's what I'm going to call it. This will be what I call the animation for the chest lid itself opening. And lastly, we need to spawn an item inside the chest for the player to pick up. Now I'm going to use a coroutine for this, and the reason why I'll explain in a second. Let's say private IE numerator. We're going to call it spawn item in chest, and then we're going to say, as the coroutine syntax demands, yield new wait for seconds, and we're just going to wait for 1 second, and then we can do our logic here. I'm going to say instantiate item spawner, which we have not made yet, so don't worry about that, and we're going to say at this transform, and then I'm going to say destroy open chest, and don't worry, we haven't made that yet either. So why are we destroying open chest, Sebastian? Well, the reason is because if not, our player check for interaction will pick up the fact that we can still open this chest. So after we open the chest, we want to destroy the script attached to it so we can no longer have an interaction for opening it. So we're going to say open chest up here, right below animator, and then we're going to make an awake method, and we're going to call the animator and the open chest. And the open chest is just get component open chest because we're referencing this script itself. So basically, after we open this chest, we're destroying the script, it spawns in an item, and then we can check for that item's interactable script, and then we'll pick up the item. I hope that makes sense. Okay, that looks good. Now we actually have to make the item spawner, and you're thinking, what's the item spawner? And all it is just the script we use when we attach it to item pickups, as seen in the previous video. So I'm just going to say game object item spawner, and don't worry, this will make sense. And then we actually want the item itself that we're going to place inside that item spawner. So right now we only have, I believe, weapon items made. So I'm just going to make this for weapon items for now. When we add more items in the future, I'll make it universal. So we're going to say public item in chest. I might actually have to change that to weapon item, or I can just cast it, but I'll probably just change it to weapon item for now. We'll come down here. We're going to say weapon pickup, which is the script that handles items for weapons specifically. We'll say weapon pickup, because this is going to be a weapon chest, equals item spawner dot get component weapon pickup. And then we're going to say if weapon pickup does not equal null. So if we do have an item spawner, or a weapon spawner rather, we're going to say weapon pickup dot item. I think it's called dot weapon actually. Yeah, it's called dot weapon. So equals item in chest. So basically what we're doing is we're spawning in an item like we've already made in the game, and we're changing it to the item that we placed in this chest, which I will have to call weapon item. So essentially, we're opening a chest, and we're spawning in one of those items we've already made in past videos, and we're changing the item that's in that spawner to whatever item we want, so the item that we have in the chest. So we're going to say start coroutine here, spawn item in chest. Okay, that's good. Now let's save that. Fantastic. We have a lot done. Just a couple more things to do now. So we actually have to animate the chest. So as you can see here on this item over here that we have, if you scroll down, you see there's a weapon pickup script. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this. I'm just going to name it item spawner, or weapon pickup, sorry. And then I'm going to go and just drag it into my prefabs right here. I'm just going to drag it in as a new prefab. Okay, that's great. Make sure you reset the transform, or else it'll spawn in the chest like a meter away. So down here, as you can see, it says sword, but watch, I'm going to show you. It doesn't matter what the item is down there. So we're going to go and drag this weapon pickup thing here in the item spawner, and the item in chest, we're going to make it the butcher sword. And what it's going to do is, it's going to spawn in this item spawner, but it's going to change the item on the item spawner into whatever item we have in this chest. So I'm also going to add an animator component to this chest, otherwise we cannot animate it. And then I'm going to create an animator controller for it. I'm just going to call it chest. Now, let's go over here and let's add the chest animator controller to the chest itself. And I actually have two animations right here, but I'm going to remake the chest one for you to show you how I did it. It's very simple. Because animating objects like doors and chests and levers in Unity, it's very, very straightforward if you're changing rotations or transforms and such. But in the player, let's go to the override layer. I'm just going to drag in the open chest animation here. And I'm going to draw an arrow transitioning back to empty, and I'm also going to tick foot IK, so our feet stick to the ground. Okay, now on the chest, I'm not even sure if this is going to work. Honestly, this animation I already have because I made it for another chest. I think it was a different chest. Yeah, okay, so that's not going to work anyway, so that's fine. So I have to make it regardless. So let's go to Window and Animation with the chest highlighted, and what we're going to do is we're going to create an animation. I'm just going to call this, again, open chest, or chest open, sorry. What you want to do is you want to keyframe right when your player's hands were going to touch the chest with his animation. So on my animation, I think that's 110 frames in. So basically pay attention to the animation you have of your player opening something and try to match it to it as best you can. So I'm going to go to frame 110. Perfect. And I'm going to ever so slightly just make a keyframe here, or even just nudge the chest a little bit. You can just keyframe it, or you can nudge it a little bit. And then I'm going to go about, we'll say 10 frames, 20 frames higher than that, and I'm going to actually open the chest. So between that point and this point is when the chest will actually open. Before then, it will do nothing. So I'm just going to rotate it up here. And I'm going to fix the position here on the back of the chest so it's sitting nicely and looks natural. That looks good. I'm actually going to open a bit wider. There we go. That's great. And pull it down a little tiny bit, and that looks good. Excellent. Alright, now if we stop by hitting this button and play, as you can see, it will open up. Now, what you want to do is you want to make sure it's not looping. Otherwise, it will open and shut. It will look like a spooky haunted case. So let's go into the animator here. First off, our animation is already there by default because it's the only animation we have. So, where is it? Here we go. And untick loop time. So it should just open up then. Cool. Now, we're also going to want to delete this. We want to make an empty state. So let's create an empty state with no animation. We don't want the chest to animate right away. Let's just call this empty. And then we drag in our chest open animation. Don't make a transition back, otherwise it will just snap back to no animation. And then when we go into the game, let's walk up to our chest. And there we go. We lock to it. We open it. And our item spawns inside. And then we can pick it up. And look at that. It is a butcher sword. There you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. We now have a working chest system. So now you can put some chests around your game, stick some items in there, and loot them. When we add more items in the future, like spells and armors and such, I will make these chests universal. So right now, it only works with a weapon item. However, it's very easy to tweak. You can make it work yourself if you have the know-how. Very simple. But we'll make it work under a general item selection as opposed to a specific item type in the future. Not next video, but the video after, we will be diving into parry and riposting. So I hope you're excited for that. And if you made it this far, drop a like and leave a comment. It does something to the algorithm. It genuinely helps my series get around, appeases the YouTube algorithm gods. And if you're feeling super generous like a total champion, check out my Patreon below. I will see you guys in the next one.